good morning, Mary Helen.
Good morning.
Mary Helen Smolbrook.
Right.
And what nationality is Smolbrook, Mary Helen?
Well, actually, I should be Smolbutsky.
Oh, okay. Was
I've-
changed at immigration time?
No, my father changed his name way back. His younger brother kept the name Smolbutsky. But he always claimed my father was born in America and his father was born in America, and we are not Polish. But, you know.
That was it. Did you ever hear the story of when your mother and father met?
Oh yeah, they met when they were in their 20s. But my mother was the one that didn't want to get married.
Did she ever tell you why?
She was always afraid of everything.
Oh,
So,
did you inherit that gift?
well, I have a certain amount of fear, but I'm not as bad as she was, I think. But anyway, my father went off and joined the Merchant Marines, sailed the seas for 13 years.
Oh,
And then when he came back, he married another woman named Rose. And apparently she didn't live that long. I don't know. He never talked about it. Except I kind of knew she was in his life. And she died.
and he met your mother.
Yeah. She died in March 1940. And my cousin, who was 14 years older than me, said my mother read it in the paper, the obituaries, and went down to pay her respects, and they got married in August
Oh, my
of
heavens.
the same year.
Oh, my heavens. And then you appeared.
Well, yeah, they thought my mother was 40 and never been married, so she wasn't going to have any babies. They registered at Our Lady of Good Counsel in Detroit, and I think it was Father Thomas Fallon said, now remember, if God blesses you with any children, we have a Catholic school here.
Oh, my heavens.
And they thought it was unlikely that that would happen. Even the doctor thought my mother had a tumor.
Oh, my.
Couldn't be.
But she was pregnant already?
She was pregnant. So
And here you are.
here I am. Quite a big tumor, right?
Mary Helen, that's a beautiful name. What religious name did you have?
Ethel Joseph.
Was that after your mother and father?
Yes.
That would have been a challenge for elementary school children, I would
Yes.
think.
A few children said Apple Joseph.
And you responded.
Right.
Yes. What was your favorite mission?
St. Mary's Royal Oak.
Special place. Yes, the people there are wonderful.
Yeah.
And who was the superior principal when you were there?
Sister Marie Eleanor Troy.
Was the high school open at that time, Mary
Right.
Helen?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They were struggling. They got, besides the Adrian Dominicans, they eventually got the St. Joseph Sisters in there to help out.
Oh, not to live in the convent, though.
Well, yes, Sister. There was a sister. I'm not sure.
But she lived with you.
She lived in the convent. I can remember her name, maybe.
I know the high school eventually closed. Were you there when it closed?
Yes, there were a lot of parents that worked together to keep it open, but eventually their children graduated and they were no longer interested, and nobody stepped up to take their place. And eventually, the enrollment dwindled, and eventually they closed it.
Well, many of our sisters who were missioned throughout the years at St. Mary's in Royal Oak were very aware of the pastor I think it was a Monsignor Carnes.
Yes.
Yes. Was he there when you were residing?
Yes, but he was retired, so Father Carl Hubble was the pastor. Father Carnes spent the winters in Florida and the summers here, and he lived in residence.
Did Sister Therese Mary live with you? Therese Mary
Yes,
Foote
yes.
live with you at the time?
Yes.
She was working as a pharmacist, though, wasn't she?
No, that came later.
Oh,
She was teaching in the high school, and
oh my,
she was kind of the bursar.
wonderful.
So-
Well, those were happy days for you.
Yeah.
And in between, you were there several years, but you took time, or you were granted time, I should say, to take care of your mother, correct?
Right. But, you know, I went there in 1966. So that's right after Vatican II. And my mother was having some financial problems. My father died. He died 2 years after I entered, May 8th, 1962.
Oh my.
And she lived, she outlived him by 18 years.
Oh my.
But anyway, she was having some financial troubles. So Sister Helen Smolbrook was my provincial at the time. They were living on Boston Boulevard.
Yes, I remember.
So I went down and asked if I could live with her. And so, anyway,
So you helped her out. And she was up, as they say, up in years at this time,
yeah,
correct?
she was 72. And we lived 6 years. And then...
That must have been a joy for her, though,
yes,
having her only daughter.
right.
Yes,
It was providential.
yes. And a joy for you.
Way it turned out. You know, but then I used to be able to come and go, but then it got to the point I was afraid to go, leave her, you know, by herself, because she didn't have anybody else. Her sisters died.
Oh, my.
One moved to Seattle to be with her daughter, and then she died there, and then the other one was in a nursing home, and we went to visit her one day, and of course she wasn't really responding, just sitting there.
Oh.
And she did have a brother, but he wasn't a whole lot of company. And-
So you were with your mother about 6 years, did you
Right.
say?
Right. And then I finally, to make a long story short, she went to St. Elizabeth Briar Bank in Bloomfield Hills.
Is that a retirement place?
Yes, for women. It's like a assisted living residence. It's run by Sisters of Divine Charity, Daughters of Divine Charity.
Charity.
They're different, more conservative than we are, but I felt I didn't have to be worried about abuse, etc. She didn't like it at first, but she made up her mind, well, I'm
Yeah.
going to make the best of it.
Yes, yes, God bless her. And she died shortly after.
Well, I think she went, 78?
Mm.
She died 1981.
Great. Yeah. Now, I notice on your shirt you have a cat and a cat and a cat and a dog and a dog and a dog. Is there some history to that?
No, I just liked the shirt. And
And you love animals.
yeah, I came here, and of course I had a cat, and I couldn't bring it with me.
You had a cat. You were living where at the time before you
Before
came to Regina?
After my mother died, ended up, make a long story short, I ended up living in the convent at St. Lucy's in St. Clair Shores for 3 years. And I moved out of there in 1989 and began living on my own in an apartment.
So that's when the cat appeared.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I started out with one, and then
2.
yeah, 2 came into my life. I can't think of her, but Patty Gillis asked me to take care of her cat. His name was Leo, a black cat. I never had 2 cats at one time. It's quite a...
So he had Sonny and Leo.
No, it was Francina and Leo.
Oh, okay.
But then Leo died of cancer,
Oh.
and then eventually I got Sonny. And
you brought him to Regina with you.
no. He was home being cared for by a good friend, and we were looking into him being adopted through Grosse Pointe Animal Adoption. And of course I was hoping to move out and take care of him, but no, I was told no.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got adopted by some man through Grosse Pointe Animal Adoption. And I was here looking for volunteer. I still had him, and
When you came to Regina, you wanted to do some volunteer work.
around
So
here.
you naturally
No,
found-
I filled out a form for volunteer work. It
here
was-
on campus, you mean?
Yes, it was supposed to go to Nilda Rao, and it got, I believe I gave it to Linda Robertson. It got lost, so I filled it out again and put it right in Nilda's hands. She smiled at me and walked away, and I never heard anything more about it.
Oh,
So I said, okay. So I was
that must mean I look for my animal friends.
yes, so I was looking on the computer, and they were welcoming volunteers, and so
Who are they?
Lenawee Humane Society,
Oh my.
and they said, you come down. And somebody here, I don't want to name names, said, why don't you go? So I went down on a Saturday morning, and I had filled out the volunteer application that was
Online.
online. And a young woman named Megan Woodward took me around. I think it was about this time of year, July, toward the end of July. She took me around and showed me the place. And she got to the laundry room and she said, we need somebody to do laundry on Tuesday and Saturday. I said, well, I think I can do that. So that's the way it has been, doing laundry. I thought I could walk dogs, but my balance is poor. And some of those dogs, the big ones, they pull on the leash. If you're...
But you get to be around the
Oh, yeah.
the dogs and the cats you favor, correct?
Right. Well, I've never had an opportunity to have a dog. In some apartments, you are allowed to have a cat, and then I was allowed to have 2 cats. So that was possible. Although I was in Columbia, South Carolina, taking care of Sister Carol Johannes's mother in 1984. They had a dog named Mo, a Dalmatian, Dalmatian, a mix anyway, Dalmatian, Labrador mix.
I bet it was beautiful.
Right, he was 10 years old at the time. My balance was good, and we'd go out walking. All you have to say, let's go for a walk, and he'd bark, and we'd go out. But by the time we came back, he was dragging his wagon, he was tired out.
An
Old
old man.
And then sometimes Betsy and Bud would leave, and it would be just
Carol's
Grandma.
mother.
yeah, Grandma, Bo, and me. So That was, and I stayed down there for 6 months. So that was the closest thing to having a dog of my own.
Well, you're from the east side of Detroit. Did you, other than that experience of going south, have you been in any other state?
For long? No.
Mostly Michigan area. Oh. Well, how did you meet the Adrian Dominicans, Mary Helen?
Well, I went to St. Gertrude's School in St. Clair Shores.
On the east side of Detroit.
Right. And the St. Joseph's thought I had a vocation because they sent me to Kalamazoo, Nazareth, really. Sandy Fortunate, who graduated 2 years before me, entered their community, and she was being dressed.
Yes, they have it.
Yeah, we went on that. We went on her reception day. 3 high school girls, the pastor from St. Gertrude, Father Crowley, Bernard Crowley, and another young man from St. Gertrude, anyway, Jackson, Terry Jackson, that was his name.
Well, I know you didn't enter the St. Joseph Sisters
No.
from Kalamazoo.
You know, a new parish began, St. Isaac Jogues. The pastor's name was Father DeLongchamp. We belonged in that parish. My mother was doing volunteer work there, and she became acquainted with his housekeeper, Mary Ann Knapp. And Mary Ann Knapp was from Minnesota, but she spent her work time in the Detroit area cooking for nuns and priests. And at some time in the past, she had worked at St. Teresa Convent cooking for the nuns. So, Adrian Dominicans. So, when my mother said I was interested in being a nun, Mary Ann said, well, there's nobody else like the Adrian Dominicans. So she took me down to Dominican to meet Sister Johnny Lee, otherwise known as Connie Kelly.
Oh, my heaven, my heavens.
Right.
So you ended up going to Dominican High School at some point.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Yeah. May I tell you a small incident that is so relatable right now?
Mm-hmm.
Mary Ann at St. Teresa's was there when I was going to enter. My sponsor lived there.
Oh.
And she made my postulant outfit.
She made mine too.
Oh, lucky us. What a beautiful woman. Yes.
Right.
Yes. So Dominican High, here you are. What years were you? A freshman, sophomore,
No,
or junior and senior?
junior and senior year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so did Connie Kelly help you
Yeah,
get
she
ready?
did. Yeah, she
Oh
did.
my.
And then when I got here to live, 2014, she had to ask me all over again, what was that all about? I mean, that, in short, that's what it was.
Yeah. She died shortly after that, didn't she?
Yeah, maybe was it last year or the year before?
I think the year before. Yeah.
I was here. I've been here 3 years now.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other sisters you had at Dominican High that are here on our campus? That's okay.
They may all be in the cemetery by now.
Uh-huh. But you were in the perpetual help crowd. So you had Sister Patrick Jerome as a novice director. Who are some of the women that entered with you who might be?
Joan Peters. And you mean at Dominican?
No,
Or
here when you
Joan
entered.
Peters.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara Quincy is here temporarily.
Yes.
Susan Howard Kirk is in the cemetery, but
Oh,
she
happy
was here
memory.
a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Grace Gianella. I don't see her very often, but she's here. Helen Favor was here.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I bet Kathy Arard was around your time.
right, she is, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is slow.
Mm-hmm.
Joanne Wimmer. Joanne
Oh.
Wimmer.
Oh.
Um,
Well, that's more than I could account for, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So your time here at Maria is that good for you? I understand you have a disease that's hereditary.
right.
Could you share that with us?
Well,
Is that what your father died from?
well,
or
yeah,
contributing
that,
factor.
You know, it's a nerve disease.
Mm-hmm.
Nerve endings weaken. The short term is muscular atrophy. The long term is Charcot-Marie tooth.
Oh my.
Those are the names of the doctors living in France in the 1800s, 1883 or 86.
What part of the body does this affect besides
The hands and the feet.
the hands? And
Usually people have a high arch. So I've been going to a podiatrist since I was 35.
oh my.
You know, calluses form.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know,
So it does
Some-
affect your
yeah.
balance.
balance.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1989, I went to Bon Secours Hospital for a EMG, and because I had carpal tunnel syndrome in this hand, but the doctor kept saying, "What do you know about your feet?" Not the doctor, but the technologist. He said, "What do you know about your feet?" Well, I didn't know what to answer other than these are difficult feet.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always happy about walking or anything like that. Well, it turned out I have the same disease as my father did, but I was better off than he was. You know, I just remembered how much he struggled. You know, he had trouble holding a pen or a pencil, writing his name.
Do you have any trouble like fastening things or?
Yes, buttoning buttons. I don't own anything that I have to button a button, but Marie Emery, Sister Mary Emery, one morning was standing out in front of her apartment, and she had a white starched shirt with buttons all the way down. And she couldn't button it. She asked me if I could button it. And I tried, but I couldn't button those buttons.
And she probably couldn't understand why
No,
you
I
were
couldn't
much younger.
Well, you know, I tried to, and she was getting upset with me because I was messing up the starched shirt. So I left it and went out and asked. I met Marilyn Uline. I explained to her what was going on and asked her if she'd go in and try. So she and Marie Emery together managed to get a button. But, you know, when my father wore a dress shirt, he couldn't button the top button. My mother could do it,
Oh, okay.
had to do it.
Yeah.
But if she was gone and I had to do it, I couldn't do it. I could never understand why I couldn't do it, but I guess that's
Took a while to get
that's
diagnosed.
part of the disease. I can't. There's certain things I can't do. He had trouble holding silverware, writing his name. I still can write my name with a pen or a pencil. What else?
Well, I want to thank you also along the way. First of all, for your volunteer work with the animals that have been rescued. Correct.
Right.
But I do know that you serve as a receptionist, part-time at Madden Hall.
Right.
Did you do that for a while here at Maria?
I'm still doing it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, you're a busy sister.
Yeah. Well, I
Yes.
still am able to do it. So
Yeah,
why not?
wonderful. Now, I always observed when you first came here and living in Regina, that you had great fondness for Janet Cox.
She taught me how to crochet, you know, and I don't know, we just met in the evening. She, also Teresa McCall would come down and we just chit-chat. It gave me something to do while I get acquainted here, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. And that's a good way in the lobby there, isn't it? You get
Yeah.
to get to know people. Do you hear from her, Jana, today? Because we all miss her so much.
I could if I looked up her. Not really. She still has, she doesn't call it crochet ole, but she has a crochet group at the Faith Baptist Church.
Oh.
And I was going, but then I sort of stopped going. I'm not doing much crochet anymore.
I presume you're able to drive.
Yes,
Oh, that's a gift.
I gotta take that
That-
driving test this year. I hope I can do it.
Well, we all do that and cross our fingers, make
Yeah.
sure we make the right turn.
Right.
Yes.
You never know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this time with you, Mary Helen. I've come to know you in just 24 hours. I mean, I've observed you and been impressed by all that you have done for our sisters. So God bless you, and may the balance get better if possible. But I understand that's not
No,
a
nothing,
reality.
it's not going to get better, I don't think. You can't do much about it. You got to live with it.
And surrender to it.
I really should do the crocheting because occupational therapy is good, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I play with the computer, so I don't know. It's pushing buttons.
Well, you're keeping them busy.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much.
All right.